Good morning. My name's John Buell. I'm joined by Mike Padilla. We are from Vanguard, one of the world's largest asset managers with over $3.5 trillion invested in our mutual funds and ETFs. Our team works on digital strategies to help individual investors become more successful at reaching their goals. Now, if you're an individual investor, you face a lot of challenging decisions to make. How much to save, how much risk to take, are you watching your costs and controlling and minimizing those costs? And then finally, what specific investments to make, which mutual funds to invest in to be successful. Mike's going to show us now our fund list and show us how we might go about making those fund decisions. What you see here is a very common display at Vanguard and across the industry to make investment decisions. We see it's a row of mutual funds and columns of data. There's yields, there's expense ratios, performance data. It's very dense, it's very accurate, but we think we can do better. It's hard to look at this and form a well-crafted, diversified portfolio. If you think about diversification, one way to think about a diversified portfolio is to own the market, own everything proportionally to its share of the whole. So if that's your rule of thumb, let's look at one of our mutual funds, the Vanguard 500 Index Fund. So we're diving deeper into existing data. Here we find more information about the fund. There's a 9-box that shows growth value, large, mid, small. There's different financial ratios. There's sector exposures. Top 10 holdings. Again, very detailed information, very common in the industry, but hard to craft and know that you're making a well-diversified portfolio. So we decided to take on this challenge and see if there's a better way to display this information to help investors be more successful.
So here we're looking at 33 of Vanguard's US stock funds. For each fund, we've visualized the diversification in a cube, where this cube represents the total US stock market. Now to fill this cube, you would have to own every single stock in the US stock market in the exact proportion as its market cap weight. So that's roughly 3.2% Apple, 1.6% Exxon, all the way down across all 3,700 stocks. That's the only way to get complete market cap-based diversification across the US stock market. Now, as you look at the different funds that we have visualized, we've also divided them into 3 sections to give you some further information. So the red section is for large companies, the orange section is for mid-sized companies, and the yellow section is for small companies. So now you can see how different funds provide different levels of coverage across each of those groups. And just by scanning the list of funds, you can now see how some funds are alike, how some funds are different, how some funds overlap, and how some funds can complement each other. So as an example, we can take a look at Vanguard's Total Stock Market Index Fund. So without knowing much more except looking at this one visualization, you can easily see that this fund provides near complete diversification over the entire US stock market across large companies, mid-sized companies, and small companies, 98.8%. If you contrast that to one of our actively managed funds, such as the Explorer Value Fund, you see that this fund has a much different investment objective, and it's got much lower level of diversification coverage. And there's no way that an investor can mistake the two now. You can see one offers full diversification, the other one does not. We can also kind of mix and match the funds in the fund mixer to see how different funds can combine and what the net diversification effect would be. So as an example, we'll take Vanguard's 500 Index Fund, a fairly well-diverse fund, and we drag it over. So if you just own this one fund in your portfolio, you have about 79.7% diversification. And now if you're looking at the list before and you were challenged to, well, what other fund should you invest in for more diversification, it'd be pretty difficult. But here you're looking for what other fund do we have that would fill those gaps. So you can scan the remaining funds, and if you look at Extended Market Index, it doesn't take a genius to see that if I drag and drop that, it fills those gaps and provides a more diversified portfolio. You can also drag more funds on, and you can see some rather non-intuitive results that you can actually add more funds to your portfolio and become less diverse because those funds are overlapping and you're concentrating some of your investments in those same overlapping underlying stocks. We can also take a deeper dive in and we can actually look at the underlying holdings of a fund or portfolio. So in this view, we're actually looking at every holding in each fund. And right now we'll look at the total stock market again. So this is Vanguard's Total Stock Market Index. Looking at every holding, we have large, mid, small, and micro-cap stocks in here. The big tower is Apple, and then you can see that, that almost natural pattern of the underlying holdings. And we can even zoom in, and you can see the tickers of every single stock within that fund. Once again, you can contrast how some funds look and how some funds don't. So an index fund has an almost natural shape. And if we look at an active fund, we'll look at capital value. So only 109 stocks in this fund. And you can see that this is an actively managed fund where the management team is actively choosing which underlying investments should this fund be invested in. Once again, this does not look like an index fund. It's an active fund, and it gives you another kind of anchoring point so that you're knowingly investing in either an index fund or an active fund, along with a better understanding of what that diversification is. We can also have a few different views, so we can color the underlying holdings by different attributes. So this default view, we're coloring it by market cap. We could also color it by style, so value growth, and even performance. So if you wanted to see what's all the underlying performance of each of those stocks that's either in a portfolio or a fund, you can see that as well. So here's the total stock market index, and on a scale of green to good performance to red to negative performance, you could see that entire basket. So we've taken this very important concept, the abstract concept of diversification, and we've made it much more real so that you can better understand diversification and hopefully help investors build better portfolios.
We elevated this experimental view back in December, and our clients love it. Some people do love the rows and columns of data, but many people love the ability to drag and drop and mix and really see what's inside these funds. Come by our booth to learn more. We'd love to share more of what we're thinking here, and thank you for your time and attention.